Hello everybody, I am here doing a video today about the power of budgeting. I'm excited about this video. Why I'm excited about this live is because budgeting is something I grew to love. I hated it at first because I didn't know how to do it, but once I got the hang of it, it was the most amazing thing that has ever happened. So I'm going to talk to you guys about the power of budgeting and where to get started. The first thing is, I want to tell you that budgeting gives you freedom. Budgeting can tell you what you can and cannot afford. How I budget now. I use the EveryDollar app. I will post a link at the end of this live for the EveryDollar app so you guys can sign up. It's a free app you can use to do your budgeting. So you could budget any way you want. You could use a pen, you could use a pencil, or you could use a spreadsheet. You could go on a computer and put in the numbers yourself. You could use a calculator. You can use whatever you want. But this EveryDollar app is amazing. I like that app because it does the math for you. All you have to do is plug in your numbers. So the first thing you need to know about budgeting, you need to know how much income you are making per month. That is super important when it comes to budgeting, because without income, you don't know how much, you don't even know what you're going to spend, right? The next thing you need to know about your budget is how much it will cost for your four walls, your food, your shelter, your transportation, your utilities, right? So you need to gather all your bills that will cover your four walls and start putting in how much it costs for each one of those, right? Once you plug in those numbers, your income should be aligned with your four walls. And anything and plus anything like your debt or like car notes and stuff like that, you need to know that information as well. Income is super important because you need to know how much money you're bringing home. You need to know how much it will cost you to run your four walls. So I'm going to tell you this. When it comes to budgeting, having a budget is a big muscle to you living your life, to you paying off debt, and to you knowing how much you could really afford. Budgeting is a little scary because, first of all, I know I used to do this and I was guilty of it. We always used to justify I get paid on Friday to excuse my spending. And you know what? Also, too, budgeting will also bring out the naked truth about how much money you really spend in certain places, right? You got to be honest with yourself when you are budgeting. When you are making a budget, you need to know how much of what you're spending, and every time you spend money, you need to put that in your budget, because it will tell you what category you're spending too much in. I don't know about you guys, but I have Bank of America. Bank of America will there's a thing at the bottom of your account. It will immediately tell you where you're spending the most money at based off your transactions, because at this point, the direction we're going in this world, we're going into a cashless society, and it's gonna cost you to spend more money with your debit or credit card, right? I use debit card for everything now. I'm done with credit cards. But Bank of America will tell you if you're spending too much money on entertainment, if you're spending too much money on bills. It will tell you where you're spending your money at regardless, right? And also, too, the naked truth I learned with budgeting, I learned that I was spending too much money in CVS. CVS was eating my wealth because I worked in a mall at the time, and CVS was the closest thing. So when in doubt, go to CVS for everything. And also, too, I was spending too much money on transportation because at the time where the job I worked at was entirely too far from my house, and I realized I was spending more money on transportation than the average person who has a 20-minute commute. And I was sad because I love that job so much, but it was just entirely too far. With budgeting, it's super important to do your four walls first. Your food, your shelter, your transportation, your utilities, right? You know your income. Once you do that on the EveryDollar app, you're going to create a zero-based budget where you would know where you spend your paycheck before it comes to you. Anything else extra, once the money's all gone, and say you made an X amount of dollar for your budget, a month, when you're working, and then you put in how much money it costs you to run your food, shelter, transportation, utilities. If you do not have any extra money after doing your 4 walls, you have an income issue. Because I'm gonna tell you this, if there's debt involved, you're gonna have to pick up a side hustle to create that extra income, right? So with a budget, it will tell you what you can and cannot afford. And for me, let me tell you something. If it's not on the budget for that month, it does not get bought. Unless if I have extra money left over from my income, then I will buy something or whatever it is, right? But here's the thing. I'm not the type of person to tell people how to spend their money. But I will tell you this. Whatever it is you're spending your money on per month, make sure you can afford it. Make sure you know how much it costs for you to have X, Y, and Z. And with the budget too, it will tell you if you can afford a certain lifestyle or not. Because if you're the type of person who goes to the club often and your bank account's down to zero, guess what? You cannot afford that lifestyle. It needs to go. If you're the type of person who probably spends a fortune on cigarettes a year or a month, you might have a smoking habit that might needs to quit, right? But whatever it is you spend your money on, make sure you can afford it. And with budgeting, it will tell you if you can or cannot afford it. It's very transparent. Numbers do not lie to you. On the other hand, if it's not on paper, if it's not digital, then you're going to constantly keep lying to yourself saying, hey, I could afford this. I could pay for this because I get paid on a certain day. I get to do this because this is what I could afford, X, Y, and Z. But in reality, you really cannot afford it. Your bank account goes into zero. The thing with budgeting too, what I also like is because it's like a blueprint for your life. It's like giving yourself a raise without asking your boss for a raise. You're going to automatically have money into your bank account extra because you're budgeting. So, when I started budgeting, my numbers was messed up, right? It took me, on average, an average person, it'll take about 3 months before you start getting comfortable with budgeting, before your numbers start looking right? It took me exactly 3 months. My first month was in December when I literally started doing budgeting on paper. It was horrible. The second month, it got a little better. Third month, I started to see the difference in the money and everything. Wham, I always have money left over after every paycheck or whenever I get paid from a hustle. So, if you are using the EveryDollar app, it's the best app to use. I don't get paid for talking about EveryDollar. The only thing I get paid for is having money at the end of every paycheck, right? But EveryDollar is a great app. I'm going to post the link. I promise you guys, once you start budgeting, once you start knowing your numbers, you're going to see a change in your life, right? But here's the thing too, right? A lot of people have businesses. They run their business amazing, but they can't run their home finances great at all, right? So you need to know your numbers in your household better than you know your business or anywhere else. You should know your own numbers better than a tax preparer knows your numbers, right? Because with your 4 walls, you need to do your food, shelter, transportation, utilities. You also need to know how much you spend on healthcare. You also need to know how much you spend on cable. And I really hate to say it too, but you know what? Sometimes the budget is going to tell you what you need to cut out of your life. Like, whether if it's certain things like cable, whether if it's certain subscriptions that needs to go, it's going to have to go. It's going to have to go because you can't afford it, right? So the power of budgeting is a big deal. I know some people may not be working right now, and some people may have downtime, but you need to make time every single month to run your numbers and see where you are at financially. Because you know what? Sometimes too, you will spend so much money, the money you go is like being flushed down the toilet. You might as well give your money to somebody else because you are spending money in places that you probably cannot afford, or X, Y, and Z. You don't know where your money's going. I always spend my money digitally, which is my app, before I spend it physically, because I know where that money is going at the end of the day. I know how much of something I could afford. I know how much I need to put down on a debt that I'm trying to pay off. I know how my numbers. It's just that simple, guys. I mean, it's not simple. It won't be simple when you actually see the truth on paper of what you could afford, because it's kind of scary, right? When I first did my budget, I looked at it like this, right? I was looking at it and I was like, oh my God, this is how much it costs me to live. I'm going to piss myself now. But in this case, I don't have to worry about that, because you know what? I know how much money I need to bring in. And then my biggest suggestion to you is calculate, if your paycheck fluctuates, calculate your lowest paycheck for your budget. Because I will tell you, if you need to get a side hustle and pick up some more extra cash, and it will save you the time, it will save you the headache, it will save you the stress from going to zero. And you know what? I feel like this information can help somebody. It can help anybody, because you know what? Everybody needs to know how to budget. I didn't know how to budget, but you know what? I had to learn. It's just that simple. You're going to mess up your first budget. It's okay. We get that. But however, when you're making a budget, it makes your life a lot easier out here. It makes your life so much easier when you're out here making a budget for your financial expenses. And you know what? I like the fact that Bank of America has that feature. A lot of people don't pay attention to it. You're just too busy worried about how much money you don't spend or whatever you don't have, whatever. But that feature at the bottom will tell you, it's like a tool. It will tell you how much money you're spending elsewhere, or where do you spend the most money at, you know? And when I first saw that feature and I scrolled down, I cannot believe I was spending so much money on transportation, more than the average person who has a regular commute to work. I was spending triple that. And I had to make that sacrifice to give up a job that I really love to go to a job that was closer to home for the sake of transportation. But you know what? It was worth it at the end. I have the money in my pocket. And knowing your numbers and knowing your budget and plugging in those numbers, it keeps so much money in your bank account. It keeps you from struggling. It keeps you from feeling like, oh my God, I can't breathe. Because I couldn't breathe. I could not breathe knowing that I did not have that certain money and I was spending so much. Like, I just couldn't breathe financially. And you know what? I had to make a change. I mean, I hope this information helps you all. Every dollar is a free app. And with a budget, it creates freedom. It's not holding you hostage. Don't think for 1 second that a budget is holding you hostage, because it's not. It's actually creating freedom for your life and for you to be able to live better. And you know what? I have to say it again. Budgeting is the biggest muscle in your life that you're going to have when it comes to deal with money, when it comes to paying off debt, when it comes to running your finances. And if you are running a budget, you're going to be successful. It's just that simple. Get to know your income, know how much is going out with your 4 walls, and then you're going to tie it all together. And if your income is less than what you could afford for your 4 walls, then thank you, girl. I miss you. I miss you all so much. But if your income doesn't align with how much you're spending for your expenses, then we got a problem. We have a serious problem. That's an income issue. And sometimes it could be a lifestyle issue, because you're spending too much on lifestyle. You're spending too much on money. Too much money on things that you cannot really afford. You're going to have to reevaluate your life and come to your senses, come together and say, hey, something has to go. And again, I'm not the type of person to tell anybody how to spend their money. But however, when you are creating a budget and when you are running your numbers, you get to decipher what's more important to you, what's not important. So I'm going to post a link down below. This is kind of like a short live, only because I wanted to get the information out there about budgeting, because I talked about already having an emergency fund, which is baby step number 1. But now we're also, while you're in baby step number 1, building your $1,000, you're going to also have to learn how to budget and what needs to go, what not, what needs to stay. So I felt like that this video definitely ties in to while you're figuring yourself out financially and so on and so forth. So I hope this can help. I can't tell you exactly word for word how step by step. I don't have a blueprint for how you should budget your lifestyle, how you should bring that money together. But I can tell you that when you make a budget, it makes more sense. There's some things in budgeting that you have to have in life that you can't let go. Like me, I focus on my four walls. I'm paying off the debt. But also health and wellness is really important, so that definitely has to stay. So what you got to figure out in your life, what is important to you. Whether if coffee is important to you, make a budget for coffee. Because I mean, people can't live without coffee. People can't live without their favorite drinks. If like, you know, having certain, like your favorite foundation, for example, if you know you run out of foundation every 2 months, put that in the budget. A budget is pretty much planning before you're actually spending. So when you put a budget together, you're actually planning for the future. You're looking ahead instead of looking what's in front of you, right? You're looking ahead instead of what's in front of you, because you get to forecast what you can afford, what you cannot afford. This way you do not overspend on things that you cannot afford. And you know what? Budgeting is also amazing to me, because I actually love budgeting, because it makes the word no comes out so organic. Because you know what? You're not lying saying that you don't have it. It's right there on paper. It tells you you do not have the money to spend X, Y, and Z. If you want something, you can plan for the purchase. If you are in July and you say you want like a pair of sneakers and you already did your budget, put it in the next month's budget. Play with your numbers. Work your numbers so you can afford certain things. Like me, I'm guilty of always overspending on groceries. That's going to be my next video on how to save money on groceries. But some way, somehow, I'm always guilty of kind of overspending on groceries, right? I have to rework my miscellaneous budget into my grocery budget, because I done overspent on groceries. But however, I compensate from one. I take something out of one category and put the money into my grocery budget. This way, I don't overspend, period, right? Because things come up. Things come up. And you know what? At least when you look ahead and you are 10 steps ahead of everything, because you know how much money you have. You know how much you're spending. And sometimes, too, you will also learn things about yourself that you didn't know. That you have an income issue. You have a transportation issue. You have a shopping addiction. You need to get rid of it. Like me, I had to get rid of my shopping addiction, because you know what? The shopping was taking over my life. It was taking over my finances. And to be honest with you, I just could not afford it anymore. So I paid off on my credit cards. Lesson learned. Every time my body aches, if it aches anymore these days, it's like saying, ouch, you done spent too much money. So guys, create freedom for yourself. Give yourself the financial freedom you deserve. Give yourself a chance to win with money. We can do this. We're in a time where we're out here struggling to fight to see if what tomorrow's going to bring. You could win with money too. And it starts with the basics. And the basics of winning with money is a budget. A budget. Budget. I don't care what you do. When I first started budgeting, I had a notebook. I was doing it on pen and paper every single month. But then when I found the EveryDollar app, it made my life so much easier, because once I put in my numbers of what it is I'm spending my paycheck on, it does the math for me. Some people like to do the math. Some people want to do it on pen and paper, but you know what? Whatever way works for you, find a way that works and make it work, and make sure you're not overspending every month. Because if you're overspending every month, then something has to go. I'm not the type. I don't want to tell you guys how to spend your money. If you like to travel, make sure you have money in the budget for traveling. Make sure but first things first, before you do anything, make sure you cover your 4 walls. Your food, your shelter, your transportation, your utilities. Because that's important. Without your 4 walls, you're not going to be able to do anything. You don't want to be homeless on the street. Make sure you have your priorities intact. And then anything extra left over from your 4 walls, then you could say, well, I could afford it to do a little shopping on Amazon. I could afford it to go to do like going out to eat or something. You know, because that will actually help you. Like the first few months will look a little crazy. It looked crazy for me, but I came to realization that I was spending too much money and I had to cut back on certain things. You'll learn that about yourself as time go on, and you know what? When you start to learn how to be strategic when it comes to placing your money, it will work out for you. Things will work out for you. So guys, you don't have to do this, but here's a little homework for you guys. Find a way of budgeting that works and budget. I'm going to post the link for Every Dollar app. Every Dollar app is amazing. It's free 99. It's free. You don't have to pay for it. I promise you. Once you get the hang of it, you will actually love to budget. You will be like, wow, why wasn't I doing this all this time? You will be shocked to see how much money you will save in your bank account. These, like the days we are living in, you cannot miss a beat anymore. You have to look far ahead. You have to be able to know where your money is going and how to spend it. So again, it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for you to sacrifice. It's going to be hard for you to give up your favorite latte at Starbucks. But you know what? It's okay, because once you get that money in your bank account, you're going to be all right. So guys, this is it for my budgeting video. I hope this helps, and I hope you guys save lots of money with this video. I am going to post a link to Every Dollar. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Bye.